Well, hello and welcome. You're listening to No Lasting City, probably the second best podcast in the world. I'm Matthew Johnston. I'm flying solo today, but I'm not without my dear friend and dear brother, Dave Hubbard. Dave has been somewhat of a regular on No Lasting City podcast. He's joined us twice before, always flying solo. When I talk to Dave, I'm not sure that the other guys would be so interested in talking about surfing. I know they'd be very interested in talking about Jesus, but No Lasting City is a ministry of Riverbend Bible Church, and our goal with this podcast is to distract you from the mundane and to ravish your mind with the glory of the person of Jesus Christ. And so, Dave, it's great to see you, brother.
Great to see you too, Matthew, and great to be back. We've both been jaunting around the world, and great to connect again in our familiar places.
Praise God. Yeah, you're right. I'm getting a little glimpse. Well, I got a little glimpse, and my family got a little glimpse, Dave, of maybe what your life has looked like for however long now. We got to travel around the world as part of a sabbatical, and it's been a great blessing. We're back now and back to the beautiful Hawke's Bay here in New Zealand, and it's really good to talk to you. So, Dave, tell us a little bit about, I think the last time we spoke, you were heading off to Portugal. You've been competing. I was saying to you before we started the podcast that wherever I was in the world, I was tuning into the live streams and cheering for you in all hours at the night. But Dave, how's life been? Tell us about the latest comps, and look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, it was a great competition year. I kind of had the the support from my wife as well as other dear friends, and kind of felt pushed to, really make a go for it this year on the tour, as far as, put my best foot forward and give myself the best opportunities to, go for the title in both the men's and the drop knee categories. So that was great, to really be focused to, from the beginning of the year to go as far as that was going to require. So I felt like I was in a great mindset. I felt great in my preparation. Felt great in my riding. Got to travel all over the world. Did these events. Hung out with all my colleagues and all the other friends of mine who are doing these things, and see friends who I've met and made around the world in these different places. Had a really awesome time, and now I'm kind of just on the backside of that, where my competition year's done, and I'm kind of like decompressing from that. It was, a pretty intensive mental requirement, kind of. So it was kind of just taking some time off to really kind of come down from the intensity and just relax back into normal life here back in Hawaii, and with my wife and family and church community. And it's been nice to be back as well.
And you've got the winter season on the North Shore of Oahu coming up?
Indeed we do, yeah. And we've just started to get a couple swells coming in, so we are transitioning. This time of year is pretty nice because we will still get a few south swells, and we're starting to get some north swells as well. So there's kind of options open on most sides of the island, if not all. And yeah, kind of nice to start transitioning towards that winter season.
Do you keep an eye, obviously you keep an eye on the North Shore, and then do you just catch a plane over, like from where you're living?
Yeah, so if I'm going to go surf the North Shore of Oahu, which is, the famous 7 Mile Miracle, that's where Pipeline and all these famous waves are. Yeah, I'll be just aware of, what's on the forecast, and pretty much looking for a couple things. I want a multiple day swell if I can. If it's just going to be one day, I may or may not fly up for it, but then I need this swell event to fall between some competition dates, because there are a bunch of contests at Pipeline. So there's quite a few blackout dates, if you will, where they could be running a contest. So I don't want to go over there to sit on the beach and watch the contest typically. So yeah, if it kind of meets those two criteria, then I'll jump on a plane, go start hanging out with my bro, and try to get some waves.
Yeah, you mentioned your brother. Listeners, that's Jeffrey Dean Hubbard. What's your middle name, Dave? I don't know your middle name.
Mark.
Mark, there you go. The Gospel of Mark. I preach through Mark's gospel, and it's a wonderful gospel. You'll arrive. Do you go stay with your brother, or you find somewhere else to stay? Or
I'll stay with my bro, especially these days. He's got some little ones, so I want to hang out with my niece and my nephew, and also too with the business. Jeff and I need to get our heads together, and we can get a lot of work done in person. So yeah, it is really nice to stay with him these days when I go over.
Yeah, well, I'll be looking forward to seeing what the winter looks like. God provides all swells, we know that, and may God keep you safe as you take off at Pipeline. You've had many, many big heaving barrels out there, and you navigate the crowds. And listeners, it's one of the most crowded places on earth. It's also one of the most beautiful waves on earth, including being very dangerous. So, Dave, I thought a good way to kind of begin our conversation, aside from what we've just done, is to ask you what kind of makes you tick. What passions do you have? Obviously, you and I are here because we're brothers in Christ, and we have a special union with the Lord Jesus, and just praise God for that. Tell us a little bit about some of your passions and kind of what makes you tick rather. You kick with your fins.
During one of my passions, as we've mentioned, bodyboarding clearly is a big part of who I am, as far as a gifting that God's blessed me with the talent and the opportunity to do this. So that's certainly high up there. But one of the spiritual giftings that God's given me on the spiritual side is encouragement. So really like to be an encourager. I'm an elder at the church I fellowship at, but I've got several friends who are pastoring, whether it's in the church I attend or other churches, and I try to come alongside them, encourage them, and just be a brother and a support to them in various ways. It looks different through different seasons for different guys. Certainly, if a new pastor steps into a call and sometimes moves to the island to answer the call, I'll certainly want to introduce him to the other men of the fold. No, of the cloth. Sorry, the other men of the cloth. And just try to come around him, support him with community, kind of get him plugged in, but to be there for him as well. Some of the ways that I serve are in youth ministry. So that's another place that God's put me in. And I think he's put me there because I have some degree of influence with my life as a professional athlete in a sport that many of the youth here on island like to practice, or at least know or follow. So I definitely
they can say, hey, my youth pastor is 10 times world bodyboarding champion.
Yes, I want to use that to God's glory and serve his kingdom purpose with that. And I may not be, nearly as gifted as the people that God's put in those youth pastor positions, but I'm happy to be a sidekick or a support or a friendly face, or just somebody consistent showing up in and around those various ministries.
We have young Toby here as part of No Lasting City. He is the youth pastor at Riverbend Bible Church, and we love Toby and his wife Tash, and they just do a wonderful job. Toby's such a gifted guy. And what would be some of the issues that you see the youth there where you're at in Hawaii? What's some of the things that they're wrestling with? And
Yeah, so yeah, I think, substances are always going to be, something that people have to deal with. I mean, whether they're young or an adult, typically they do get introduced at a younger age than we would like. So whether that's alcohol or tobacco, but over here marijuana is pretty prevalent, and nowadays vaping is really popular. So that would be something for sure that well, especially marijuana is very like common as far as the usage. So I think marijuana and alcohol are just very common for youth to see, not only their peers but maybe even other family members, maybe other adults that they run into using. So I think they get very comfortable around them, and unfortunately, um, probably don't see them as a problem right out of the gate. Um, and probably pornography is just something that's plaguing, I'd say, all ages of society, but getting into um, footholds in the youth at just a younger and younger age, which is just so scary and unfortunate that with these technological devices that we have in our hands, yeah, that gives just greater and more free accessibility, and yeah, makes it actually like really hard to avoid, I think, for younger guys. So I think that's a big difference from when I was growing up to where these guys are growing up. Is before it probably had to be sought after, whereas now I think it's a huge challenge to avoid
yeah, it's a
sexualized
good way to put it.
content. Yeah.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's a very, yeah. I can tell you that many of those things you just named are the similar battles and struggles. Obviously, there's certain worldly agendas and narratives that are thrust on them through the devices that we've just spoken about, and just the general public in general. Identity is a very popular word these days, and everyone wants to have an identity, whether it's an LGBTQ trans identity or whatever it is, and just, yeah, it's a real hard time to grow up. I feel for them, and so we need strong ministry to our youth. So I'm sure you do an exceptional job at that, and they would be, really stoked to have you as involved in that.
Yeah, thanks. And I mean, I typically my modus operandus is yeah, if God's calling me somewhere, then I just answer the call and show up and leave the results to him. I take the work seriously, but I don't necessarily put a lot of weight on my shoulder or expectations, or I don't need to be the one with the cape on when it comes to the ministry. And um, if God wants me somewhere else, I go somewhere else as well. And
that's somewhat analogous to the way you approach your bodyboarding. You kind of describe it like that. You're there for Christ. You over the years, have you developed more of a calmer state of mind in the ocean, like over time, like because you competed professionally before you were a Christian, right?
Yes, yeah, and I would say it's been a huge part of my mindset, competitive mindset, and just my approach to being in the water, my approach to professionalism, and just wave riding in general. And obviously, when you follow Christ, that's hopefully going to go into all areas of your life and affect everything that you do. So even something that seems separate or not a part of someone's relationship with God, like bodyboarding, yeah, obviously it is affected by my relationship with Christ, and in a good way, in a positive way. I've definitely had have grown leaps and bounds, and specifically in my mindset and my approach to whether it's competition or just wave riding in general. And yeah, there's a peace that comes from the obviously the Holy Spirit, but just resting on those promises that God's made
Mm,
us,
mm,
and also resting on God's faithfulness. That's one of his big characteristics, and I know he's not only does he love me, but he's reliable. So
mm.
when I kind of put those two together, and I can add some more things about what I understand about his characteristics, then I can be bold in some things that I do. I can be brave, um, not reckless. I think there's a difference there. But then I
Mm.
can also find some peace and some tranquility in some distressful moments because the ocean is a dangerous place.
Yeah.
And I certainly respect God's creation in specifically in the ocean. It's like, um, you certainly don't want to be overconfident in that arena. I think
Mm.
people do mistake, fearless and reckless, and they kind of mix that when popular surf culture in the mainstream is like television shows like 100 Foot Wave, or
Mm.
the big wave surfing has been uh, huge at getting surfing into the mainstream, and I think people just kind of those lines are a little bit blurred to them, that you either need to be crazy to surf, or all surfers are reckless and just go for huge waves. And
Mm.
yeah, I think there's a very fine line there. But yeah, I'm I'm aware that God's uh there is how should I say this? So fear, although fear is not of God and we're not called to be fearful,
Mm.
I think there is some healthy aspects to fear when it naturally presents itself,
Oh yeah.
um, as far as like alerting us to danger and
Like
ways
duck dive. Duck dive.
get under or avoid whatever's coming your way. Whether it's a
Yeah.
car on
Yeah.
a highway, or
Mm.
and you're crossing the street, or if it's a big wave coming, whatever it is.
Mm.
Hey, danger! Be alert! Let's get out
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So those are instances where, yeah, fear can be healthy, and so I have a respect for that mechanism.
Mm.
I certainly don't want to bow to fear and let fear start to override the things I know about God, or the
Right.
things that I know God has called me to do. So
Mm.
those are all very kind of nuanced and areas that could be easily lost on
Mm.
somebody who's viewing or kind of new to the sport of maybe any sport, really.
Yeah. 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 No, super helpful. Super helpful. What does an average day look like for you, Dave, when you're in Kauai?
It's interesting. I get this question a lot, and even just one of my good friends was asking me today. And I think when you had prepped me for some of these questions, you allowed for the possibility that there isn't a normal day.
Yeah, what I was meant to say, whatever normal looks like. Yeah, that's right.
And I think there's maybe a variety of normal days, and it could be any one of a variety of normal days, but a typical normal day, which isn't every day, but I'll wake up early, I'll go for a surf, I'll come home and start to catch up on some business things. My brother and I own a bodyboard brand, as you know, but maybe our listeners don't. And so there are some day-to-day tasks to do with that, as well as maybe a project with that. Again, I probably don't have to do a lengthy multiple hour project with my brand every day, but there's probably some time going to be spent on either planning or in one of the aspects of getting a project done. Um, there's probably going to be some time, of course, with my wife. There's going to be some time, whether it's with some other brothers of Christ, fellowshipping, or in a Bible study, praying for each other. and again, that might not happen every day, but that's a pretty typical day. That'll happen a couple times a week for sure.
And you're serving as an elder now, right?
And I am, yeah. So maybe once a month, I'm in that capacity and meeting with the other elders, or in a ministry setting, I'm going and assisting in a ministry. That's going to happen probably at least once a week, maybe more. So, yeah, there's a bunch of different normal days, I guess.
Thanks for answering that question. I think some would be interested. It's really interesting because I have a number of friends that I grew up surfing, bodyboarding with, and they'll always dial in to these episodes, and some of them aren't Christian, and so they listen to this and always interested to know, because listeners, from a bodyboarding point of view, you got to realize that Dave and his brother Jeff are arguably the best in the world, and we've grown up watching Jeff and Dave for decades now on video magazines. And so, yeah, guys listening, I'm trying to serve you as well by getting you insights into Dub's life. Dave, one of the things that is very clear from the time we've had our friendship is that you make the most of every opportunity. I think that's a way I could describe you. You're eager to make the most of every opportunity, and that includes being on tour, and I'm sure that includes when you're out in the lineup, when you're rubbing shoulders with your colleagues, as you say. It's been well said that only one life shall soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. And so I know that's something that you kind of live by. Whether or not you've heard that quote or not, I don't know. But I just want to commend you in that and encourage you in that. And listeners, you can be praying for Dave. Pray for Dave as he competes on the world tour, travels all over the world, and has a family, serves as an elder in a church. Dave, in many ways, at least for us here at Riverbend, October's the month of Hawaii. We're recording the podcast with you, and we also have our sports camp here that happens every year. It's been going for 43, 44 years now. Hundreds of youth will come from all over New Zealand, even some from over in Australia. They'll come and spend a long weekend here, and they'll just play sport upon sport upon sport. And then we will have a speaker who comes and preach the gospel. Well, this year, the speaker for Sports Camp 2024 is a dear brother of mine. I was in seminary with him. His name's Landon Miller, and he is pastoring a church on the North Shore of Oahu. And I don't know how to pronounce the place where he is from, but it is spelt, I believe, Aiea. Aiea. Yeah, so he lives in Aiea, and his name's Landon Miller. So shout out to Landon flying out here. A funny story, Dave, is I'm talking to Landon just from pastor to pastor. He's just such a sweet guy. We're encouraging each other in the trials and rigors of ministry. This was a long time ago. And I just mentioned that we have a sports camp coming up and just described it to him. And he's like, dude, I want to run a sports camp here at our church. And you guys have got to come out and teach us how to run it. And so it was on his heart. And I said, well, you come here and preach at it. So he's coming out in like 2 weeks or so to preach.
So cool.
Yeah, so it's the Hawaii season right now for us.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. What's the rest of the year looking like? There's not long left in the year, Dave, but what's the rest of this year looking like?
So at the end of this month, my wife and I are going to go over to Japan for a few weeks.
Awesome.
So that's part of her birthday present, and just going to be a nice time. We did a trip to Morocco and Hungary back in February and March, but I was doing a lot of the traveling myself with her at home for most of the year. So this will be a time for us to travel together. We'll go to Japan for about 3 weeks, and then her father's turning 70. So we will go to Hungary on this trip as well. That'll put us back in the islands in December, which I hope to get some cool waves. And of course, it's the holiday season, so a lot will be done with the church and family, of course. So that's kind of, I think the rest of the year is probably going to go pretty quick.
That's so fun. Hey, where did you go in Morocco? Because on sabbatical, my wife and I and our children spent 11 days in Morocco. Whereabouts did you go?
Yeah, we were in Agadir, which is kind of central and kind of more south, I think.
Yeah, I don't even know why I asked that question. I'm sure you went to Agadir. Listeners, Agadir is where a lot of the waves are, south of Marrakesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what
awesome.
City were you in? Were you in Casablanca or up there?
We flew in to Marrakesh. It was like 46 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. It's like 110 maybe. It's close. It's hot.
Probably hot.
And then we hung there, and then we drove up to Tangier, and Tangier is at the very top of Africa. There's a coast up there. You can swim in the ocean and see Spain. And then we went from there to an amazing city, Chefchaouen. It's the blue city. It's unbelievable. And then back down to Marrakesh and out again. But yeah, Morocco was great. Yeah. There's some amazing surf there, Dave, as we know, and I didn't get any of it.
It's all right. Maybe next time. But yeah, it's definitely a cool place, cool culture, beautiful people. And interesting that although the country is predominantly Muslim, they do have some Christian roots, which is kind of rare that, some of their native or national peoples had Christian beliefs, and it's just kind of interesting. That's kind of held their position. They would be considered left or liberal in the Muslim world, but it's because they are tolerant because of a diverse, origin story that their peoples have. So it's not only Arabs that typically came in with Islam, but there were some peoples in the area.
Like the Berber people, I think they're called the Berber people.
Exactly. Yeah.
We have some beautiful Berber rugs in our house now.
Cool.
I think, we wanted to maybe get some bigger ones. It was just so hard. There were so many. It was so hard to decide what rugs, but we got a couple of smaller ones, and they're just beautiful, made by the Berber people up in the mountains. Yeah, the people that you're referring to.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, brother. The world is a little crazy right now. It's kind of always crazy, just different degrees of crazy. But one thing we know is that Christ is on the throne, that He's ruling and reigning as King now, and that there'll come a day soon when the full expression of His kingdom will be here in the millennial kingdom when He returns in the future. And I think between now and then, one thing that you encourage me with, Dave, is just to make the most of Christ, the most of every opportunity. And I just want to say thank you for being an encouragement to me personally. I kind of, I don't really fanboy out, but for me, to be able to, build a relationship with you. I remember watching you back in the day. You had your listeners, I have a beard. Well, let me tell you, Dave had some beard back in the day. And if you, in fact, if you Google bodyboarding images of Dave Hubbard, there's like the bearded Dave and the non-bearded Dave. And he had quite the beard, brother.
And that was a cool moment, and it's iconic for a lot of people, and even people who I've known for a very long time kind of remember me in that phase or era, and it's just fun. I'm glad I did it, and glad to not have it anymore. But it's just it kind of demarcates a certain era of my career, and it's funny. That's classic that you remember that as well and brought it up.
You were recently I want to surf this wave so bad, and if the Lord ever has me come to Hawaii, it's my dream to go to the North Shore of Oahu.
Right.
If I don't believe this wave is, and you don't have to disclose the location of it. I just want to surf it so bad. It's that wave in the harbor that doubles up. I think you posted on your Instagram recently. You might have just been there. Like, again, you don't have to disclose where it is, but I want to surf that wave so bad.
It's a fun wave. It is over on Maui, and they don't mind. It's like
Okay.
a really in your face like wave, so it's not
Right.
really secretive at all.
Yeah.
And
is it called the harbor, or what's it called?
it's called the Harbor. Yeah.
The harbor. Yeah, yeah. So
And
fun.
it's a very unique wave, yeah, in the way that it doubles up but then backs off, and just very fun, very bodyboarder friendly wave. It's way better for bodyboarding than surfing, especially, it's mostly a right-hander. There is a pretty decent left off it too, but you'll always see images, video and whatnot of guys going right, and it is a cool wave. It's unique for sure.
Is that, obviously it looks like it has a break wall beside it, and then does it have a break wall behind it?
Totally, yeah. So it's in a harbor, and the harbor was basically built with these two break walls that, it wasn't a natural enclosure, a natural coastal enclosure by any means, and it's not necessarily like a bay or anything. So they had to build two break walls and make a really narrow mouth entry point, and so it needs a very kind of specific swell direction to come straight in, because of those two break walls come to kind of a narrow enclosure to create this harbor.
Is it a sand bottom, or is it shingle, or a boulder, or what is it?
A reef.
Oh, it's a reef.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing? That the combination of, God's design of the reef that's there, and then man's work of the break walls that are there, and it collides into just this fun. I don't know if I can. If you're a surfer, you know what I'm about to say, but if you're not, then please forgive me. But it comes in and kind of doubles up, but then reforms and then hits that reef and has quite the barrel. Obviously, we've seen a lot of footage of Jacob Romero out there, just tearing it apart, and you and your brother and so many others, and the guys drop knee ride it, they prone ride it. I just want to ride that wave so bad.
Hopefully you do, God willing.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I was just curious about that one. This is what I was going to ask you as well. I had just the amazing experience of being able to ride one of the urban surf waves. There's two of them, one in Melbourne and one in Sydney. And I went and spent 2 hours at Urban Surf with some friends on the advanced mode. They call it beast mode. It only runs in the evening. And I'm not sure if we have I told you about this before? Maybe in the last episode? I can't remember.
Well, I think just in our correspondence over the time, yeah.
I'm pinching myself. There's like Matt Riley's out there. Kingy was meant to be there. He couldn't come. It was a bunch of just guys from the coast that I grew up on, and then some professional guys. We all had the session together and went across the road to catch up afterwards. And I was just pinching myself that I'm with these guys. Anyway, that's such an amazing wave. Like, I never thought I'd ever get tired of getting barreled, but 2 hours nonstop, just barreling waves over a concrete bottom, shallow too. It's got a bit of grunt in it. But have you ridden any of these artificial waves? I saw footage of Jeff. He might have been riding the British one. I don't know where it was. I don't know if he's been over to Portugal or England. I don't know where it is. But have you ridden one of these artificial waves? And number two, have you seen the new one that's in Palm Springs? Like the bowl on that thing?
Yeah, that new one in Palm Springs looks really cool. And, some recent stuff of Tanner and some of his buddies out there. It looks very bodyboarder friendly. Again, just the way that bowl kind of slabs and lurches. But no, I have never ridden an artificial wave pool. But on this trip to Japan, I'm scheduled to ride Surf Stadium in Shizuoka, the Shizumi Surf Stadium. So that's exciting. I have that kind of booked and scheduled out. And there's a potential for me to even ride in Europe when I'm there with my wife, but that's not totally arranged or confirmed yet. But yeah, kind of exciting. I think it's a very in my preparation, just kind of starting to think about it and be like looking forward to it is like, at least for this one that I'm going to need to know the style of wave I want, because they can make several different kinds of waves. And then I need to really study the wave ahead of time and be prepared that, okay, I'll only get a finite number of these in the time that is allotted. And so what exactly do I want to do? And it's just, that's very, very different from if you're going on a surf trip. You're maybe not quite as oriented in, okay, I'm only going to be able to catch 10 waves and I need to make each one count. If you're going to surf a new break, yes, you do some study, you do some research ahead of time, and then you expect to spend hours upon hours throughout a variety of conditions. But this is like, you'll get 1 hour, it's going to be the exact condition that you watch it at. Like, it's not really going to change. That's how it is. You're going to get it exactly how you see it. You can be prepared, but you're going to get 1 hour, 10 waves or something. It's like,
yeah, it's honestly like cerebral overload. Like I had all these questions as I was driving there. It's right by the airport in Melbourne there, and I'm really buzzing out on multiple levels. I'm about to catch up with my old surfing buddies. I know there's going to be a bunch of pros there that we're going to be with as one group, and then I'm also going to ride this wave, and I'm thinking, how's this going to work? Like, are there going to be like surfers out there that are going to be snaking the bodyboarders, and how's it going to work? But it's really, the way they run it is so great. Small group, you go out there, and you just line up to the right, and you wait, and because it's such a small group, you get so many waves, like so many.
So cool.
Everyone takes turns. No one's snaking each other. It's really relaxed. And the way it wedges up in the corner, and how you're you have to paddle across from the side that you're on into the corner. And you know what bodyboarders are like. We're all pushing each other straight away. You got to like touch the wall. Like, you're not really taking off unless you kind of touch the wall. And so everyone's like touching the wall and give it a tap and then take off. And man, it's heavy. My leash snapped on my first wave.
Wow, that says a lot. Well, it
Yeah,
wasn't
like
Hubbard's leash, clearly.
Yeah, shout out to Hubboards. I needed one. Shout out to Hubboards. It snapped the leash. I took off and bottom turned, and it really, like, it's not a big wave, but it's a chunky wave. And I said to the boys, hey, this has got kind of like more grunt than the local reef that we grew up surfing down the coast where we're living. And it's a grunty little thing. I know they have like quite a few accidents there, like people, getting injuries to their necks and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
They in the introduction kind of orientation of it, they've got all the Gath helmets there, and they get you to wear those, and we weren't wearing those. The boys were like, we're not wearing them, but it would be smart to wear one. Just so fun. So I can't wait for you to have that opportunity, and I can imagine, I'm not drop kneeing those waves, but you're choosing, I know you're going to be versatile, mix it up and make sure someone's there to film it. And I look forward to seeing the footage, because these waves are incredible. And there's some illustration there, these man-made waves. There's some illustration there. Man can accomplish some things through the common grace of God, and we get to play in this playground now of artificial waves. I never thought I'd ever get to ride them, and so it was quite an amazing experience. And the professional guys, you guys tear these waves apart. Like I was just taken off getting barreled, and I was excited. Making the barrel was exciting enough for me, because it's quite the barrel ride. It's exciting.
Yeah. No, that one looks very fun. The Melbourne and the Sydney pools look very attractive, and they look similar to the Bristol pool. I think it's that same technology.
Yeah. I think it's Wavegarden. I don't know. I can't remember.
Definitely has a nice tube on it, and yeah, I'm also interested. But yeah, they get a little shallow and kind of interesting. I like what you were bringing up. When God created, and then He set us to be kind of overseers of His creation, and we were created in His image, I think he did also impart on us creativity and the ability and the potential for creating. Obviously, never to match or outdo his creation, but to find the things, the design within his creation that we could take advantage of or replicate or enjoy for recreation is what we're talking about. This technology is used for recreation, and pretty interesting where we're at these days.
I've been so thrilled to move to a new family home down by the sea, and it's about 15 minutes drive here from the church. And I kind of just think, Lord, you're so kind to me. I have within 7 minutes drive from my home, I have a Point Break. Granted, it's a fatter, slower kind of wave, but still, I'm getting dialed into that place, and I've been able to get down there right on dusk, and I'm sussing out the tides, and I've surfed it into the night, and I'm getting familiar with where the most energy is for the bodyboard, and I've had some really good surfs out there. Then 4 minutes away, the other direction from my home, is an amazing river mouth. I surfed it for 2 days in a row before I went on sabbatical. It's like a shingle bottom, and I got some really fun little barrels out there. It breaks really well. It gets really good too. And then about 12 minutes away is another river mouth, which is a real punchy wave that can get quite good indeed. Like I'm talking, the last wave I saw out there, 4 or 5 foot, spat twice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. If the Lord has you ever come out here, I'd love for there to be a swell. It's on the East Coast, and we grew up calling the East Coast the least coast, at least around this way. But when the swell comes, it's great. So I'm there. I'm just praising God, Lord. Thank you for. It's such a kindness of you that I can see the ocean from my lounge room. I've got 3 surf breaks, within just a few minutes drive. My daughter's been taking out a soft top at the point, and I just think to myself, what did I do to deserve this? That the Lord's so kind.
He is indeed, and that's awesome. Praise God for the blessings you've received with that. And I definitely echo that sentiment as far as I'm super blessed, and praise God, thank him for all that he allows me to experience of his creation as well. It's an interesting thing. Some people will think that spirituality or a relationship with God is completely divorced from our physical reality. There's other people on the side of it that would put kind of everything in that basket too. And I think there is a mystery that bridges the gap there, and God would like us to kind of be able to experience him while we experience his creation, or at least maybe fellowship with him, or kind of partake, or whether it's worship or praise in those moments where we are connected through his creation. Again, it's not pantheism where people will start to worship the creation. I don't think, I think that's certainly an error. But at the same time, I don't think we can get completely outside of our physical bodies or the physical reality of creation. I think God made it all, and it's all working together for his glory.
Isn't it amazing how God opens our eyes, right? We weren't, Dave, you and I and any other Christian listening, it's not as though we were smarter, more intellectually capable than our neighbor who isn't smart enough to figure out that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. It's solely by God's grace that he revealed his truth to us. And we live motivated by that fact, that amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. So I am thankful for you, Dave, and I'm thankful for your time today, and I'm sure our listeners are encouraged. Keep doing what you're doing. May the Lord bless you. We look forward to having one of your fellow Hawaiians out here preaching soon. He'll preach on the Lord's Day here at Riverbend as well. And I hope and pray that you have a wonderful time in Japan. My wife really wants to go to Japan one day. Japan just looks like the coolest place ever. And may the Lord bless you, man.
Appreciate it, Matthew. Thank you so much. And thank you to your listeners who have prayed or will pray for me. I really appreciate not only your support and encouragement and our relationship, but that you've invited others to be a part of what I do for God by supporting me through prayer. It's super special, and I don't take it for granted, and I truly appreciate anybody who's prayed for me or who will pray for me. So thank you for inviting them too.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Listen, listeners, two things. You can follow Dave on Instagram at lowercase DUB and then the number 0.
Yep.
And you know what's hilarious, Dave, is while I was away, I'd always seen your Instagram handle and be like, Dubbo. And then I was like, you're such a dummy, Matthew. That's like Dub Zero, like Sub-Zero. Is that it? Dub Zero?
Yeah.
Yeah? So Dub Zero, DUB, the number 0 on Instagram. Follow Dave. He is providing content there, just beautiful footage and the like, and also hubboards.com, HUBBOARDS, Hub. That's from Dave and Jeff's last name, Hubbard. Hubboards.com. Summer's coming up. You'll need all sorts of gear, and I want to commend Hubboards to you. I'd love to ride one day. And Dave, God bless you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew. Aloha.
No Lasting City is a ministry of Riverbend Bible Church in Hastings, New Zealand. For more information, please visit our website, riverbend.org.nz, or visit us on YouTube. Follow us on social media where you can interact with us or ask us any questions. Our links are in the show notes, and we'd love to see you there.